Hello, and welcome to our show.
Okay, we had a 10-second pause there.
Okay.
The light came on and you didn't do anything for 10 seconds, so we're starting to show over.
Oh, it's 28, not 27 that I do start on? I forgot.
On 27:53, this light should come on.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter what the clock says.
All right.
When that light comes on, you talk.
I was watching the clock. Okay, so sorry. So sorry.
The clock just gives you a rough.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to our show today. This is Chronic Ailments and Scientific Nutrition. My name is Janara Iman, and I'm a clinical nutritionist. I practice here in Marin County, California. And the show is about natural solutions based on lab analysis. Today we're going to bring you a show on weight loss resistance and hormones. And the show today is going to talk about how we combine labs, nutrition, and supplements all together to bring you a way of healing that is a natural way to heal the body, and the body recognizes it as natural. So the goal of natural medicine is prevention and repair. And with prevention and repair, using science combined with natural medicines, we help facilitate the body to heal itself. So our show today, Weight Loss Resistance, Toxics, and Hormones, is a really hot topic because it is a global, I would say, epidemic, obesity and weight loss resistance. And it might not be your fault. How is that? How is it not your fault? Okay, you've been told over and over again, eat less, exercise more, don't eat this, eat that, count your calories. But really, is that all there is to it? We're going to talk about that today. And then, if that's not the answer, how can we tell? We're going to talk about that. So back to the labs we were just talking about. Lab testing based on the results of the averages of thousands of healthy people is how we focus on our individual lab testing. Most of the time when you get your lab work done, it is based on averages of sick people that go to the doctor. And so there might be things that are missed. Things might come up in your blood work that have been there a long time, but they weren't obvious yet. So we try to catch that in the beginning because this is about prevention. The resulting nutritional recommendations then with your labs are based on what is customized for you. So your scores, your results make what kind of supplements we give you to repair yourself, what kind of lifestyle changes we do. So it's not a guessing game. It's not running into the health food store after reading something online and saying, oh, this might work. So by using this computer analysis, there's no guessing and nothing is missed. So back to our topic. Can't lose weight? You've tried everything and the pounds come back. I often have people come into my office, and one of the things I hear all the time is that I eat only 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day and I'm still gaining weight. What's going on? And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that's at least half of what I eat because I have a healthy metabolism. And my goal is to help other people get back to that healthy metabolism they had in their teens and their 20s and early 30s. So what is the reason? Toxicity is often the real reason that people can't lose weight, and it's affecting people's hormones and their health. So let's think about that. Toxins disrupt hormones. They're attracted to your fat cells and they disrupt your hormone balance. So those messengers aren't talking to each other the way they did when you were younger. So to understand weight loss in the 21st century, you have to understand hormones and you have to understand the toxicity's effect at the cellular level. And then this true cellular detox will also bring the body back to a better state of health and a better metabolic state. So let's get rid of some of the myths about weight loss. Okay, weight loss myth buster number 1. We're going to talk about the way we get fat is we take in more calories than we burn. Question mark, is that true? Well, if it were true, then losing weight would be easy as grade school math. 1, 2, 3. Is it? Now, most people I talk to don't think so, all right? Maybe when you were younger and, like I said, had a different metabolic rate. So calorie-restricted diets fail almost every time, and it's actually what we eat that counts, not the counting of the calories. And that's really an important concept, so don't forget that. Remember that. Because often the body loses more muscle than fat. So when you're restricting calories, the reason why you might lose weight in the beginning, and especially this happens with women, they gain it right back the minute they look at the food that they didn't eat for a week or a month or whatever, it's because your body responded to a different set point metabolically, and then it creates that yo-yo thing. Okay, we've all heard about that. But why does it stay there? Well, this lack of nutrition leaves you out of balance. And when your body's out of balance, that's when you get those uncontrollable carbohydrate cravings. And we're going to talk about that later when we look at the cell membrane, because I'm going to show you a little bit of why that happens. So weight loss myth buster number 2. Exercise more and you'll lose weight. So more exercise, more weight loss? Question. Okay. Calories versus in don't equal long-term weight loss. Why is that? Well, we just kind of talked about that for one thing. But in all actuality, we are all individually metabolically different. And so how we burn a calorie and how we use a calorie and how we store fat is all different, and it depends on what's going on in us, which we'll talk about in our labs later on. So exercise is important though. Exercise for a healthy heart. Exercise for good muscle tone. Exercise for more energy. That's where it really counts. When you've got exercise and you've got good muscle tone, you actually burn more fat as fuel. And that's what we want to access. And so exercise to feel good, because nobody sitting on their couch doesn't feel good, that feels good. You know, that's when the aches and pains start. It gets harder and harder to get moving. So hours at the gym, on the treadmill, counting calories are not the solution to weight loss. Well, maybe only in part. So let's talk about another myth buster. Eat fat and you'll get fat. Now, how many people, raise your hand out there sitting at home, believe that's true? And here I have my little fat cat. This little cat was probably fed a nice little diet of grains. And if you look at most cat food brands on the market, one of the first 4 or 5 things on the ingredients are corn and grains. And kitty cats weren't meant to eat grains, and neither were humans on that level from back at our Paleolithic ancestry. Nobody ate grains, and so we had to develop a tolerance to being able to digest them. And these poor little animals don't have the digestive tracts to do it, but yet they're eating them. So we have a very fat little contented cat who's constantly craving sugar, because that's what the grains turn to, sugar. And we have that little nice picture, but the truth is, it's the kind of fat you eat. It isn't the fat that makes you fat. It's the kind of fat you eat. And we're going to get into that a little more later, because not all fats are created equal. And eating good fats equals good weight loss. Or we might want to say permanent weight loss, okay? So where do you begin? You take simple steps with your diet. So remove bad fats, sugars, and refined carbs, and toxins. And you say, oh, I pretty much avoid toxins. Well, this is diet food right here. And it's on every restaurant table, and you see it everywhere, and it's toxin. It isn't natural. It's made by man, and the body doesn't know what to do with it. So not only does artificial sweetener push insulin in the exact same way that sugar does, but it also keeps you craving more, just like sugar does. And that's self-defeating. So therefore, if you're trying to lose weight and you're on a diet and you can't get anywhere, begin by eliminating toxins and start here. The diet food is not the place to start. So avoid all man-made foods and chemicals and increase healthy fats and oils, fruits and vegetables, and healthy proteins. And I have a little example of one healthy fat, an avocado here, but all God-made fats are pretty much healthy. Coconut oil, for instance, organic butter. And eliminate grains until your healthy weight is restored. And you can have a little grains, but make sure they're organic, they're in the form of rice or quinoa or non-gluten, and certain beans, nuts, and seeds are okay during this period of time. Because one of the biggest connections to weight loss is insulin. And everything that you eat in the form of sugar will produce insulin in the pancreas, and that sends a message to the body, store fat. I'm very happy now. I've got sugar, I'm doing fine. And that's what we don't want to have happen, but the body gets used to that, and it'll crave more sugar. So what we really want to do is be able to burn fat for fuel, okay? And basically we want our own body fat to burn for fuel, because your body, memorize this, can only use two things for energy: sugar and fat. So why do I have a little picture of salmon and broccoli up there? Because they turn to sugar. So think about it. There's lots of fad diets out there. Fill your plate with the biggest piece of protein you can do and pile some fat on top of that. But what happens to protein is that it turns to sugar. And that's how everything has to turn to sugar. It turns to glucose so that you can use it for fuel. And if it doesn't turn to glucose, you're not digesting it. Just simple as that. That's how the body works. So you want to use actually that protein and that broccoli for your source of carbohydrates and sugars, okay? The vegetables and the protein. But you don't want to eat too much of it, because then again, what are you doing? Storing fat and using sugar. So the other thing is fat. Fat helps you burn fat. So good healthy fats, and we just mentioned our good old friend the coconut again. Avocado and the coconut, because healthy people have the ability to burn both fat and sugar. And like we were saying back when you were younger, you could do that. But when you get to the place where you're counting calories and it doesn't work, you are a sugar burner. You are no longer a fat burner. And this leads to obesity. It leads to diabetes, which also leads to heart disease and elevated cholesterol, LDL, which is exactly what we don't want. And most Americans are now in the place with our obesity epidemic that they can only really use sugar. So the cravings for sugar become exasperated. And part of this is called, it involves a hormone called leptin, which we'll talk about a little bit, but it controls your appetite and is supposed to tell you when you're full. But the sugar sends these hormone messengers, awry, and you're not getting the message that you need because your cells aren't getting enough energy. So here we go. Eating good fats equals weight loss, because fat reprograms your genetic code. And we're all born with our own individual genetic code. And turning those fat genes on is what happens when your cells aren't getting the nutrition it needs for methylating, for creating ATP, for energy in your body. And the membrane of your cell begins to break down. So we need the right kind of fats. Omega-3 fatty acids decrease the amount of fat you store for energy, and we've all heard about omega-3s. We hear about it all the time. It also increases thermogenesis in the body, which enables you to burn fat. So why do we all of a sudden need to supplement with omega-3 fatty acids? You hear about it all the time, and we never did in the past, because our livestock is fed grain. Our livestock used to have a 2-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, and that is now 20-to-1 because it's being fed grain. So that in turn is a large reason why some of those proteins in the form of meats that you eat make you fat, and clinical trials show that they contribute to cholesterol. It's actually the grain. Grain's the culprit. So that's a pretty radical statement, but it's huge and it's a big part of it. So new studies show that it achieves this through by eating fat, by changing the gene expression back to its original state. It helps switch the genes involved in fatty acid oxidation and switches those off involved in fat storage. And so eating good fats also reduces inflammation, because if we're not storing fats and gathering toxins in our fats, which is where toxins are stored and why your body wants to hold on to them because it thinks it's protecting you, it creates inflammation, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so the new studies are showing that increasing polyunsaturated fatty acids such as omega-6, which is conjugated linolenic acid, or better known as CLA, and medium chain triglycerides actually downregulated gene expression for inflammation and upregulated gene expression for lipid or fat metabolism. And so overweight subjects in this clinical trial became good fat burners by eating good fat. And we were just kind of talking in other shows about how omega-6s, we get too many and we get too many in grains. What the problem is the one and the type that you're getting. So over here in this little corner I have this pretty flower picture, and that is an evening primrose flower. And in that is a special oil that contains a lot of linoleic acid. So not only do you want the high quality omega-3s, but you also want the high quality omega-6s that are not rancid and not burning and oxidating in standardized vegetable oils, okay? This is for anti-inflammation and for weight loss. All right, so gene expression for leptin was also affected in this clinical trial, and we just talked about leptin. The body began to say, okay, I'm full and now I can use this for fuel instead of store it as fat. And so leptin, since it controls food cravings and fat burning, is a big key here, and it's a hormone. And our hormones, like we said before, are affected by toxins. So 1/3 of all weight loss resistance is leptin resistance. It's a big number. So we want to talk about toxins and where some of them come from, and you'd be surprised. Some of them are in our everyday food, and we embrace them in our life, and we think nothing of it, especially with our children who cry in the grocery store if they don't get what they want. So there's studies that show in the advertising field, how cereal companies and candy companies are marketing to children and how that's affecting children's desire for what they want. So a study done by Story and French in 2004 noticed that a child first request for sugared cereals and candied products in a grocery store started at 24 months. The most requested first in-store product was breakfast cereal. 47% for sugared, colored, chemicalized breakfast cereal. That's basically starch that turns directly to sugar. And then snacks and beverages, after that, 30%. What does that leave? The rest was toys, 21%. And all of this comes down to advertising. In 2004, a total of $7.5 billion was spent on some form of targeted advertising for kids. This is a study you can look up by Cedar and Gaines. And my whole point is you and I grew up with this, and we remember this, but some of us are being inundated with it more and more. And we see now when our kids are in front of the TV or at the movies, and they want the new toy in the cereal. Look and see where we get these messages of what's healthy food and what's not, because chemicalized vitamins inside of cereal are not real health food. And we have a great obesity problem with children. So we've got to look at diabetes prevention. And we know from clinical trials now that diabetes prevention has a 100% cure rate, and it's all due to the diet. So even the most conservative sources say that 85% of type 2 diabetes is curable if the lifestyle is changed. And we have a simple solution. remove the cause, fix the cell. And when you remove the causes and all of these things we were just talking about, the body can heal itself because it's no longer trying to fight off these things as if they're foreign invaders like disease. So this show today is about prevention as well as nutrition. So we were just talking about what causes cellular inflammation. 3 problems. The cell can't get the nutrients it needs for cellular energy, and it can't get the toxins out. So I repeat, it's like we were talking before. Those toxins triggered the genes of susceptibility that interferes with the communication in the cell and disrupts the hormone function. And then once again, we have a problem and we start to store the fat. This is a picture of a little cell. And this is a double lipid layer. Each cell has 2 layers of fat around it. And if these aren't made up of healthy fats, they begin to get brittle. And so all these little receptors, even insulin that drives nutrition from your digestion of food into the cell, can't get it in. And so you end up with uncontrollable cravings for sugar, so you can make more insulin to create a battering ram to get down in there because the cell needs energy. And so what do we do about that? Those receptors are blunted on the membrane and they can no longer hear the hormones. And so the ever-growing need of insulin is perpetuated, and the sugar cravings that go along with it. So we talk about what can go wrong, and that's the inflammation, the toxins, and everything we just talked about. So here's some of the things we were discussing. And studies are showing that high cholesterol is an inflammatory response, okay? And the biggest cause is sugars and things that turn quickly in the body to sugars. So, you know, here we have some of our baked goods, and here we have the cereals that our children are crying for in the grocery store. And we also have the healthy water that's bottled in the plastic that gives us another source of toxins, the plastic bottles that we drink out of. Okay, so we all know about the bisphenol now, and we've got to look at every source, and bringing fresh whole food back into your life. You know, healthy proteins, a little bit of whole grain, and the vegetables and fruits that build cellular health and give you natural sugar. So let's talk about your labs. Their individual comprehensive lab testing, as like we talked about earlier, will give us a biological picture of you, and it'll be you alone. And so the kind of prescriptions that you'll get for supplements and foods and lifestyle changes will be specifically catered to you. And that's how we give the body what it needs to heal itself. Here's another little test that we can do in our office in 10 minutes. It's called a meta-oxy test. And it tests the amount of malinaldehyde, which is a byproduct of cellular lipid peroxidation. That's a big, long statement. That means basically we can tell by lipid peroxidation, and that is free radical damage due to the poor fats oxidation, how that's happening in your body and how that is hurting your health. Okay? And it's 50 times more accurate than a blood test to determine if you are aging prematurely. So we want to know this, and we want to stop it right away. And one of the things you can do is just start with some of those keys that I gave you earlier. So cellular inflammation, as we can see now, is the true underlying cause for 80 to 90% of all conditions. So we want to know. We want to know these things because we live and die at the cellular level. So a test for urinary malinaldehyde is a perfect solution, a really quick solution to find out if we're really, oxidizing in that level. So the other thing we want to do is preventive lab testing. Like we talked about earlier, your lab tests that you get from your doctor are usually based on unhealthy or sick people's averages. And they fall in these functional zones, functional highs and functional lows. And when we test, we want to know the healthy lab ranges of healthy people and compare you to that. Now we can really see where your true markers are. And we never want to fall into these abnormal lows and highs because then we have real problems. But often if you're showing that you have an issue on your lab test, your normal lab testing, you might already be there. And so that's what we want to prevent. went backwards on my... I'm trying to get to the lab test. Here we go. Okay, so why do we want to do this comprehensive lab testing in the way we do it? It consists of 52 different tests, and we get a good picture of you. And this is a comparison of 2 tests. This is the second one after a year, 6 months to a year. And this person shows a great amount of improvement. And how can we tell? Because on this first test, we see a lot of red and some blue in here. When we see red, you're either in a functional high or low, or you're heading towards a code blue area where we better do something fast because disease is setting in. So when we see these, we want to fix these right away. The white is good. That means that's healthy. And the yellow is a warning sign. And these warning signs are important to look at because, once again, these are the markers for where your body's going downhill and what we need to fix. So here you can see that we've had a lot of change and we've gone back to health. A urinalysis can also tell us exactly what's happening metabolically in your body. And the importance of that is we want to see what your body's casting off. Hair analysis is the other part of the picture. And here we can look for metals and toxins. And we just spent a lot of time talking about that. And now we know how we can do it. Okay? The first part of this test up here is the toxic metals, and down here is your minerals. And now we can see also if you're not getting enough. So you may not have enough here, and you may have too much of this. What we want to do is we want to get you in balance. So how does hair work? People always ask me that. So trace amounts of chemicals found in the hair follicle illustrate what toxins the body's casting off, like in the urine. Because the hair follicle is hooked to blood. So toxins disrupt the hormones, and we want to know this so we can fix it. So the whole idea of this is fix the cell by restoring cellular function, and we do it from the inside out. And we do it with East meets West. We take the old wisdom of nutrition and herbs and lifestyle changes, and we combine it with the top scientific methods that we can possibly do to get down to the DNA and the cellular level and help you heal yourself. So it's a great system. It works really, really well, and it really tells you what you need, where you are at, and how we can help you. And going back to our topic today of weight loss resistance, that is usually the first step towards prediabetes, or what we call syndrome X. And it's an inflammatory condition in the body. And if we can help you take care of that, we can help you heal yourself. Not only will you lose weight and have more energy and have a better lifestyle and live longer, but you'll get a lot of tools from this where you can live a long, healthy life and perhaps not on medications. So that's the end of my show today. And this show airs weekly on Saturdays at 2:30 on Channel 26, and it's made possible by CMCM Squared, a community media center in San Rafael, California. I have an office. I practice in San Rafael, California, and here's my phone number, 415-496-5203. And I invite you to go to my website, vitalnaturalhealthsolutions.com, if you need more information. You'll find tips on there, and you'll find a little bit more about how we can work for your health. And I want to thank the crew for making this show possible. So may you be in good health. See you next time.